The Edmonton Oilers are in a full-blown crisis. Their offense is sinking their season.
You are Locked On Oilers, your daily podcast on the Edmonton Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Wednesday edition of Locked On Oilers. I am your host, Nick Zararis. This is my third season as a host here on the Locked On Podcast Network, my 10th doing digital hockey content. And I want to thank everyone that is making Locked On Oilers their first listen of the day. Locked On Oilers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network in Locked On Oilers, where we've got your team covered every single day. And today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com, and you could win up to $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So, on today's Wednesday edition of Locked On Oilers, we're going to walk through exactly why the Oilers' offense is in such a crisis state. Our opening segment, we're going to talk about it materially in terms of dangerous offense, what shows up in the statistics. In our second segment, we will talk about the inefficiency of the Oilers' offense and why what they are doing in the offensive zone and overall trying to facilitate offense is not working particularly well. And then in our final segment, I'm going to break it down and tell you what all of that means in the aggregate as far as the direction of the season and potential courses of action. So to start out, in today's NHL, and this is not unique to hockey, this is true of the four major sports, we exist in an efficiency era. That is not just unique to sports. You look at the business world, you look at the political world, everything is consolidating. Everything is shoring up power and insulating a handful of people from everyone else. And one of the ways that we have seen that manifest in hockey is a central brain trust as far as how the game is played. And one of the things that I still like about hockey is there is no one style. There isn't a West Coast offense. There isn't a Shanahan or McVay coaching tree the way there is in football. There isn't a three true outcomes baseball style efficiency here. But there are certain overarching principles that exist throughout these systems. The single most integral is creating dangerous offense. And there is no one clear-cut way to do that. The easiest way is rush offense. And rush offense is defined as a scoring chance that comes within 3 seconds of the team entering the offensive zone. Those are generally going to be clean entries, meaning a player is going to skate through the neutral zone, carry the puck into the offensive zone, maintain control, and then within a second or two of gaining that zone, they're going to continue to bear down and try and drive the net, whether they try to score themselves or they dish the puck over to someone else to create a better scoring chance. Think of the goal Jack Roslovic scored against Buffalo on Monday night. That is a textbook example of a rush offense goal. Why is it effective? You have the defenders in a state of flux. They're back skating. They don't have as good of a perception as where they are. Of course, they have visual indicators to get an idea of where they are on the ice. They can look at the boards. There are tricks and tips. There are individual identifiers players can use to identify where they are on the ice. You have the goalie in a state of flux because in those types of opportunities, you have the advantage of coming downhill to some degree, and you have a numbers advantage. Or even if it's 2-on-2, you at least have the element of surprise where if you're a goalie, you have to account for both the player carrying the puck shooting it, and you have to account for the capacity to get over to the opposite post if the other player ultimately receives a pass and gets you moving laterally. And so far this year, the Oilers have 4 of their 12 forwards creating above average rate of scoring chances off the rush. McDavid, Draisaitl, Roslovic, Podkolzin. Roslovic and Podkolzin play with Leon. Not a surprise to see those three together. No Mangiapane, no Nugent-Hopkins, and Hyman hasn't played enough to qualify for these statistics yet, but that is discouraging. If your best player is doing all the work, they're the one carrying the puck into the offensive zone, they are driving the net, they are trying to create offense, and you don't have the guys to play with him. Now, I will say, I like what I have seen from Matthew Savoie in a limited dose. It has not been a particularly long-term partnership between Savoie and McDavid, but I am at least willing to entertain being patient when it comes to Savoie, because that will help the Oilers not just now, but down the road 2 or 3 years from now, if he can figure out how to play with McDavid at a high level and facilitate more offense. Now, the NHL average for these statistics, it's early. There is still a bit of noise in a lot of these statistics, meaning there's more room variance within the sample than there's likely going to be 60 or so games from now when we are in the middle of April. But the rest of the Oilers forward group is below average off the rush and below average off the cycle, meaning that when McDavid, Draisaitl, Roslovic, Podkolzin are out there, the Oilers are not generating offense at even a league average rate. That means when you double up Connor and Leon, I know you're desperate. I know you need offense, but when you double up Connor and Leon together, whether it's with Savoie, with Hyman, or whoever else you want to throw on their left, that is effectively sending 3 lines over the boards to go through the motions. And that's a tinge disrespectful, that's a tinge rude to professional hockey players. I get that, but that's what the numbers say. When McDavid and Draisaitl's lines are not out there, the Oilers do not have lines capable of creating offense, of sustaining offensive zone time, of creating shots on goal. Then, interconnected to this is the fact that the Oilers' defense is struggling to help facilitate offense. Mattias Ekholm, highest rate of exits of any defender on this team. That makes sense. He's the player who is going back to get those loose pucks or is eating it effectively to help facilitate breakouts. Ty Emberson struggles breaking the puck out. Darnell Nurse struggles breaking the puck out. Alec Regula has struggled at times to break the puck out. Troy Stetcher definitely struggled to break the puck out. That is generally why you see GMs favor the larger defensemen, because general managers and coaches suppose if they're bigger, they're going to be able to withstand forechecks a little bit better, and they're going to be able to break the puck out a little bit cleaner. Nobody other than Ekholm, though, is actually getting loose pucks and leading them to breakouts. Now, Evan Bouchard's role is not to go back into the corners to get loose pucks and to eat pressure. Bouchard's goal is to receive the puck from Ekholm and break the puck out, to attack, to get going from defense to offense. But when you think about it in a vacuum, you have 1 or 2 defensemen in your lineup that are effectively moving the puck right now. And you can join that with the fact that the Oilers have 2 lines most nights that are entirely ineffective at creating anything resembling offense. And it's not a wonder this team is struggling the way they are in the offensive zone. And it is crazy that a team that features 2 of the 5 best players in the world can't score more than 2 goals per game. I mean, the Oilers have played 21 games this year, and they have scored 63 goals. You know what 63 divided by 21 is? That comes out to roughly 3 goals per game. It comes out to 3 goals per game. And this is a team that is conceding so much defensively because their goaltending is so poor. It creates a really rough feedback. So far, the Oilers are scoring overall at an okay pace. They're at 63 goals, but 58 is the league average. And then they've conceded 73 when 58 is the league average. That's a product of their .865 goaltending. But make no mistake about it, as much as the Oilers' goaltending and their defense has let them down, we talked about it last night. Of the 1,200 minutes or so the Oilers had played going into last night's game against Buffalo, they had trailed for more than 900 minutes the Oilers have spent trailing in games, which means all it takes is one mistake from Stuart Skinner, one Darnell Nurse blow up, and suddenly you're down 2, and suddenly that game is over because you have had such a difficult time manufacturing offense. We are going to take our first break on today's edition of Locked On Oilers. When we come back, we're going to talk about why the Oilers' offense is so inefficient. I'm going to tell you why this is a personnel problem, not an execution problem. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired. Or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fact-acting, doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiet makes it so easy to get started. You connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. If prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private, and it's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. Visit rugiet.com/lockedonnhl, and you'll get 15% off your first order. One more time, that's rugiet.com/lockedonnhl. Don't forget, use our code LOCKEDONNHL so they know we sent you. Rougiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. Thank you for making Locked On Oilers your first listen of the day, and thank you so much for helping make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. So, continuing on in our conversation, not only are the Oilers not threatening in the offensive zone, they are playing an extremely inefficient style of hockey. And efficiency is not a be-all, end-all. As anybody who has a cursory understanding of the market and economics right now, efficiency is a lot of the problem, actually, consolidation and centralization of power. But in the purposes of execution, of getting from point A to point B as smoothly and cleanly as possible, the Oilers are leaving so much on the table. And it's really frustrating because the Oilers have two of the best players in the world at carrying the puck into the offensive zone in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. That is still true so far this year. We've only played 20 games, but Connor and Leon are still carrying the puck with possession into the offensive zone at rates commiserate with what their career averages have been. But when you go a level deeper than that, and you start to try and get to the crux of the issue, why can't the Oilers score? Well, number one, they are not creating nearly as dangerous of offense as they have in years past. What do I mean by that? So a high danger scoring chance is in that high traffic area. So in your head, if you're thinking for a visual, close your eyes, draw diagonal lines out from the posts to the face-off circles and in between the hashes. That area of the ice, that hexagon, pentagon, trapezoid, there we go. That trapezoid-shaped object would qualify as a high danger chance. Those are chances that historically have been most likely to result in goals. That is the premium area of the ice. That is when you hear talking heads on the intermission reports, whether it's on TV or on the radio, and you hear, well, the Oilers aren't getting the puck to the dirty areas, they're not driving the net. That's what that means in practice. It means the Oilers are not generating high danger chances, and high danger chances are the most likely to result in goals. Of the 32 teams in the NHL, the Oilers have been credited with 970 overall scoring chances at 5-on-5 this year. Of those 970, 147 have been credited as being high danger. That means 15.2% of all Oilers scoring chances are high danger. That is the second worst clip in the entire NHL, only ahead of the Seattle Kraken. A team with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl creating this little dangerous offense should be setting off the most massive of alarm bells as humanly possible. Expanding upon that, when you go and look at the Oiler players with high danger chances, number one, McDavid, Mangiapane 2, Jack Roslovic 3, Adam Henrique 4, Vasily Podkolzin 5, Leon Draisaitl 6, Trent Frederic 7. That is just high danger chances. And that tells me Leon is doing too much transition work. And you want guys to do what they're good at. And I spent the first minute and a half of this segment talking about why Draisaitl is so valuable because of his ability to carry the puck into the offensive zone. He does the grunt work. He bobs and weaves through traffic. He gains the offensive zone. He absorbs the pressure, and he moves the puck along. The problem is he is not getting the puck on net enough for a guy who is second in the league in goals, who led the league in goals last year. And I am inclined to believe that this is a decision-making process, not necessarily a mistake, a problem, nursing an injury, anything like that. I genuinely think Leon sees these opportunities, and is getting good results from Jack Roslovic and is getting okay results from Vasily Podkolzin and wants to do his part. I don't think it's a coincidence that both Roslovic and Podkolzin are ahead of Draisaitl in the high danger chance department, especially when you add in the fact that Leon's primetime scoring area, that bottom of the right circle, that falls outside of the high danger chance. And yes, Leon is a good enough shooter that he can take that shot consistently and make it go in. That is an example of what we call an outlier, something that is not true of most people, but in Leon's case is. He is one of the few players in the world that can consistently score from that area at the bottom of the circle. Then, the other component to efficiency is tied to something we talked about after the Monday game against Buffalo, and that's decision-making. Because when you go under the hood and you look at who is just taking the most chances on this team, in terms of shots on goal, Darnell Nurse first, 103. Matthias Ekholm second, 86. Evan Bouchard third, 77. Jack Roslovic fourth, 63. Brett Kulak fifth, 57. Jake Wallman sixth, 53. Leon Draisaitl seventh, 52. Connor McDavid is not in the top 5, not in the top 7 of Oilers for shots on goal. That's not good enough. I'm sorry. And I get that McDavid, Draisaitl, they don't want to be puck hogs. They want to set their guys up. They want to help create. All of that stuff is true. I get it. I understand they are doing the grunt work. They are the ones carrying the puck into the offensive zone. They are the ones that are doing the dirty work in transition. And that is a really challenging place to be right now. And to clarify, that was scoring chances, not shots on goal. I want to be correct there when we talk about that. And those are 5-on-5 only. Those point shots from Nurse, from Ekholm, from Bouchard, from Kulak, from Wallman, those are end-of-sequence plays. Those are shots from the point that don't get through, that get redirected, that miss the net, that the goalie sees clean. So when you take that point shot, and you do need your defensemen to occasionally take those shots to keep defenses honest, perfectly fine. They are out shooting Leon. They are out shooting Connor. Hyman and Roslovic will eventually end up here, I suppose. I think Podkolzin can probably get into the top 10 or so, but with the greatest share of any team being shots on goal from defensemen, the entire league, 30% of the Oilers' shots on goal so far this year are from defensemen, the highest rate of any in the league. Those are low-danger scoring chances. Those are not particularly likely to result in offense. You need traffic. You need redirects. You need deflections. You need everything imaginable to facilitate those chances becoming more valuable. And the Oilers don't have great net front play to be disruptive in that area, to create traffic, to give those chances better opportunities to go in. So if you're a Darnell Nurse and you settle for a mediocre shot, the goalie freezes and we go back to a face-off, you killed the play. If you're a defender who's jumping up in the play and rushing the net, that's a little bit different. If you're a defenseman who looks up, says, I'm going to whip it because there's nobody pressing me, you're in effect doing what the defense wants. And we are not getting to offense enough at a baseline. So the fact that the Oilers are struggling to gain the offensive zone with consistency, especially in the non-McDavid Draisaitl minutes or when they're together, the other 3 lines, and then when they get to the offensive zone, the most common shooters are defensemen, it's no wonder this is a mess. It is ridiculous that we are a month and a half into the season, and there hasn't been a teaching point here. There hasn't been a coaching point here about prioritizing dangerous offense, about being willing to take risks, to get the puck where it needs to go so the Oilers can score more consistently. And you can talk all you want about the defense, all you want about the goaltending, the vibes. This is a team that is predicated on scoring goals. This is a team that is predicated on the best players in the world playing like it. And right now, the Oilers are losing Connor McDavid's minutes, especially when he is away from Draisaitl. The Oilers need more from everybody. We are going to take our second and final break on today's edition of Locked On Oilers. When we come back, I'm going to unpack it for you, and I'm going to tell you what this all means as far as the Oilers' trajectory for the rest of this season. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game, or if you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to huge fourth-quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay to increase your odds at a bigger payout. The betting favorite to win the NBA title, the Oklahoma City Thunder at plus 170. Jokic and the Nuggets, who are at plus 650. The Nuggets magically getting almost 50 total rebounds, points, and assists from Jokic, even though he's only playing 33 minutes a night. The Cavaliers at plus 750. My Knicks at 13-1. Kevin Durant and the Lakers at 14-1. And yes, the LeBron Lakers checking in at 14-1. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head on over to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you so much to everybody who is making Locked On Oilers their first listen of the day. And as we walk through these existential questions, and make no mistake about it, these are existential questions about the direction of the team. This isn't like last year or the year before where the underlying numbers were decent and they just needed some puck luck. They were getting bad goaltending. They couldn't get the puck to go in. The special teams were struggling. This is not like that. Yes, the Oilers' power play has been very good. Yes, the Oilers' penalty kill up until last night against Buffalo had been trending in the right direction. Yes, the goaltending has been abysmal. It's under .870 for the year. That's unacceptable. But there is no implied positive regression coming for this offense based on what we've seen so far. They don't create dangerous offense. They don't get to offense enough. When they load McDavid and Draisaitl up together, their bottom 9 forwards are incapable of doing basically anything in the offensive zone. And that leads me to believe a few things. Number one, the Oilers are going to be patient, and you might not like that. I definitely don't like that, but there's no UC Saros trade coming down the pike. There's no Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen trade. There's no Sam Montembeault or Jacob Dobyshev or Charlie Lindgren. There is no goalie trade happening in the next 2 weeks. And with the standings so congested in both conferences, teams are going to be a lot more reticent to make trades, to move guys, because everybody needs that illusion of being in the mix to sell tickets. And look, am I a bit cynical when it comes to the direction of teams that general managers don't always act in their best interest? Absolutely. I am always going to err on the side of guy in power is choosing to look out for himself as opposed to everyone else. But these people have to sell tickets. And the sooner you trade away a starting goalie, the sooner people stop showing up. The sooner your season ticket holders have to start listing tickets for 3/4 or even half what their face value ticket price is. And that's not a tenable situation long term. Number two, the Oilers are expecting guys that are here to get going. In the case of Matthew Savoie, I am inclined to believe that's going to happen. In the case of Zach Hyman, I think that's going to happen. In the case of Stuart Skinner, in the case of Darnell Nurse, in the case of Brett Kulak, I'm a lot more skeptical that any of those guys is just magically going to have a light go on for them. Yeah, Nurse eventually settled down after the first 2 months last year and was passable in the regular season. But this is different. This is about as bad you are going to see from NHL defensemen with this much experience. It would be one thing if this was Emberson or Alec Regula, somebody with not a lot of experience that was trying to figure it out. Darnell Nurse is one of the longest tenured players on this team, not just with the Oilers, but in the NHL at large. And he looks non-functional. He is struggling to do the basics right. Stuart Skinner looks as broken a starter who gets regular starts as I have ever seen at the NHL level. This is as bad of goaltending as I have seen in the NHL in the last 10 to 15 years. Throw that in with the fact that Calvin Pickard is giving them .830 goaltending. There is no, they're just going to turn it around here when it comes to those guys. The Oilers don't give up a lot defensively. For all of the problems I've said about their offense, they're still only giving up 23, 24 shots on goal per night. That's pretty doable. If you are an average NHL goalie, if you are a 900 save percentage goalie and you only got to save 24, 25 shots a night, you're going to have a reasonable chance to win a lot of hockey games. And that's been the story the last 2-3 years for the Oilers when it comes to Stuart Skinner. But you sit here after all of the wars, all of the playoffs, and the Oilers are effectively telling you, we know this isn't good enough, but for right now, this is what we got. You got to wait. You can hang your hat on Savoie, hang your hat on Zach Hyman. That's fine. I'm inclined to believe we will see Ike Howard again at some point this year. Alec Regula, when he's played well, has at least encouraged a little bit of optimism. But when the players who are struggling are long-term veterans, guys like Nurse, guys like Stuart Skinner, guys like Adam Henrique, guys like Brett Kulak, that's a lot more concerning because those guys don't have resources to tap into. It's not the case of a Savoie or a Howard where they're trying to refine, they're trying to learn. These are veterans who have hundreds of NHL games. In the case of Adam Henrique, 1,000 NHL games. And it looks like the game has left them. To quote Jamie Carragher, leave the football before the football leaves you. Some of these guys are unplayable. But when you think about it, does Chris Knobloch have the conviction to burn some of his capital? We know how important the connections are in this locker room. Can Chris Knobloch credibly healthy scratch Darnell Nurse for a game or two? Could he do it to Brett Kulak? Hell, I was reading reporting last night that part of the reason Pickard was back is that there would have been a, quote, mutiny in the locker room if they didn't bring Pickard back. So that begs the question, are we trying to win Stanley Cups or do we want everyone to be friends? Because we want everyone to be friends. The Oilers are doing a great job. But if the goal is to win, which I have been led to believe it is, something has to change here. And I wrote the header for this segment as patience until they can't. Right now, with everything being so congested in both conferences, the Oilers can wait a little while. That said, there is going to be a tipping point, whether that's American Thanksgiving, Christmas, the New Year, the Olympics. If the Oilers are still struggling to this degree, don't be surprised if Chris Knobloch gets fired. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. It is a lot easier for a general manager to change the coach than it is to change the team. You can move one or two guys. The problem, of course, the Oilers guys who are being such net negatives, dragging the team down, they have no movements. They have no trades. And they are paying a lot of money to certain players. And it makes the flexibility to acquire talent almost impossible. So if Stan Bowman thinks he can buy himself some time by firing Chris Knobloch, he's going to do it. Now, as we were just talking about before with credibility, political capital, can Stan Bowman fire Connor McDavid's junior hockey coach and coach who's gotten the team to 2 straight finals without immediately turning the attention to him? Because that's the way this works. These decisions, when it comes to coaching and trades, these are political capital decisions where you need to have a certain amount of credibility with the people above you in the pecking order to convince them it's the right thing. And then once you fire your first coach as a general manager, you as a general manager get on the clock because you're saying this roster is good. I need to get someone who can do better. Most GMs get 2 tries. Some will get 3. In outlier cases, you will get 4. The second Stan Bowman fires Chris Knobloch, the attention turns to him and the roster he's assembled. And the roster he's assembled is not playing very good hockey. That will do it for today's edition of Locked On Oilers. Thank you so much to everyone that made Locked On Oilers their first listen of the day, and that has helped make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Be sure to check out Locked On NHL Game Night, where the guys are breaking down every game every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned in June. Be sure to subscribe to Locked On Oilers wherever you get your podcasts or over on YouTube. Leave the show a 5-star review if you're listening on Apple or Spotify. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Until then, let's go Oilers.